Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name's Kaylin, and if you are new here, I live in Seoul, South Korea, and today I wanted to film a little bit of a story time video for you. If you guys watched my last vlog, I mentioned I kind of wanted to share more things about my life, and you know the perfect way to do that is of course a story time. So today I'm going to be sharing with you a few stories that are kind of like strange / scary things that have happened to me in Korea. Nothing too bad, and I hope this doesn't come across as me complaining about Korea or people in Korea. That's not what I'm trying to do here. I'm just going to share some stories with you. So anyway, let's just jump right into the video. So the first story I want to start with is the Elevator Stalker. Not to say that he was a stalker, I only saw him that one time, but after that I was very scared to take the elevator at my building for like ever. So I had come home late one night after drinking, and if you guys aren't aware, I live in an office building, so that means it's like a high-rise apartment complex. So my building has about 30 floors, so depending on the time, the elevator can take forever to like come down and take you back up. And for some reason, despite it being like the middle of the night, the elevator was taking forever to come. So I'm in the lobby on my phone just chilling, and I noticed someone else was like kind of near me waiting for the elevator, but I'm just ignoring them. And it's just taking so long though, and I can see it's like still up on the higher floors, it's not coming down. And eventually I hear this hello, and I look, it's the person that was like waiting behind me, and it's this man. He's probably like a young guy, and he's, I would say, late 20s to early 30s, and I assume he was a businessman. He was in a suit and he looked very like clean and all that. And so he was just like, yeah, hello, and I was just like, oh, hi. And let me just say this before I go into the story. I'm a very nice person, I guess you would say. Like if someone talks to me, I will respond. Even if I don't want to, I just don't want to be rude, so I will respond to them. Even if I'm feeling like uncomfortable, I will respond. So again, like I said, he was like, hi, how you going? What are you doing? And I was just like, oh yeah, hi, I just got home. I had been out drinking. And he's like, oh, so you live here? And I'm like, well, yeah, I do live here. Why else would I be in this building in the middle of the night? And he's like, oh, cool, me too. And I'm like, okay, that's nice. And I wanted to just go back on my phone, but he kept chatting. And he was just like, oh, so which floor do you live on? And I was just kind of like, what do you mean? Why do you need to know that? But I didn't say anything. I was just like, oh, you know, one of the lower floors. Like I didn't want to tell him the exact number, but I just like, yeah, gave him that. And he was like, oh, well, you know, I live on the 26th floor. And the way he said it, I was just kind of like, it sounded like he was bragging. So I was just like, oh, that's really cool. It must be nice. And he was just like, it is. It's really good. The view from up there is amazing, especially at night, the city. And, you know, I'm just like nodding my head, trying to like find a way to like get out this conversation, and he just kept going on about his room, and I was like, oh, that must be really cool, that's really nice. And then he was just like, yeah, would you like to come up for a beer right now? And I look at him and I'm like, now? And he's like, yeah, right now, like come up, grab a beer, we can talk. And I'm like, what are we going to talk about? And he's just like, yeah, you know, I think it'd be really nice if you came up, you can enjoy like the view, like I said, it's so pretty. And I'm like, oh, it must be, but sorry, I'm really tired, I don't want to come up right now. And he just like wasn't getting the hint that I was not interested, and he just kept asking about it. But luckily for me, the elevator finally came down to the lobby and we get on, and I noticed then someone else came in behind us. I think it was like some delivery guy, so he also gets on. So it's me, the delivery guy, and this business guy. We're in the elevator, and you know, I click my room, like my floor number, and we're going up, and he's still trying to chat to me, trying to tell me to come up to his room for a beer, or now he's changed it to a coffee if I didn't want to drink. And I'm kind of like, no, sorry, I'm tired. And eventually we get to my floor, and he's like, oh, you live here, which number is your room? And I'm like, what? And the elevator door opens, and I'm just like, in my head, I'm like, okay, let's just run for it, like let's just get out here. But before I could even like walk out, he clicks the button so the door like is held, like the door for the elevator is like open, it's not closing. And I kind of look at him, and he's like, yeah, which room number are you? And I'm like, you don't need to know that. And I'm like, oh, why? And he's like, oh, you know, so I can come visit you. And I'm like, excuse me, sorry, my like boyfriend is waiting for me in the room. And he was like, oh, you have a boyfriend? And I was like, yes, I do. And at this point, I just want to like leave, but I'm scared because he's holding the door open. So I was like, what if I don't say anything and he just gets off with me? So I'm like, just waiting for his response. And he's like, well, in that case, can you give me your number? And maybe some other time you can come up to my room and drink that beer because we can be friends, we can just chat. And still, I'm feeling like super uncomfortable. And as I mentioned, I'm really nice. So I was like, okay, give me your number. I'll like write it down. Like I'll put it in my phone now. And I could see that behind me, like the delivery guy is like kind of like in the back of the elevator, like on his phone, but he's like kind of glancing up like, what's going on? And so I'm just like, come on, let's just get this over with. So I give him my number. And he's just like, okay, cool, like I'm gonna contact you, you should come up though, you really should check out that view, we'll get that beer together. And finally the door closes, like he lets go of the button, the door closes, and I just like stand there for a minute because I'm kind of scared like if the door will open again he'll like come out just to, not to see he was gonna follow me or anything, but I just like felt nervous about it. So I waited and the elevator eventually started going up, and at that point I just like ran to my room door, and as soon as I got to my door I got a notification. He had messaged me, he was like, hey, it's whatever his name was, we met in the elevator right now, like it was really good to meet you, you should come up next time for that beer. And as soon as I got that I was like, hell no, blocked. But I just couldn't believe it. I felt like so like shaken up just because I was like scared he was like literally gonna get off of the elevator with me. I was just like, dude, I live here, like why do you have to make this like super awkward? And so after that for like 6 months I would not take the elevator. I was just like, I didn't want to run into him. Like I would take, like we have back stairs, so I'd take the stairs, which sucks by the way. But yeah, that was the elevator stalker. The next story I want to share with you guys is what I would call the subway hugger. So again, another late night out. I just got back home. Well, I got off the subway at my station and I was walking, I was on my phone, so I was kind of like just, you know, looking down, kind of like playing around, but I'd glance up just to make sure I wasn't running into anyone because despite being quite late at night, it was pretty busy in the subway station. And I'm walking and I can kind of see someone, like I'm going straight, someone was coming like from this way, and so I kind of was like, okay, just slow down so they can pass. And so I slow down, but instead of passing, they stop. As soon as they get in front of me, they stop. And so I kind of like bump into them and I look up, it's like a guy, I would say he was my age, and he like seemed like just a normal guy, like a college student or something. And so I was just kind of like, oh, mianeo, and I kept like trying to walk away. But of course he comes next to me and starts following me, and I'm like, what? And he's just like, hi, how are you? And I'm like, oh god, here we go. And right away I could tell he was pretty like drunk. He was kind of like stumbling and just like he smelled of alcohol, like of soju. I was just like, oh yeah, I'm good. And I'm, you know, I keep walking. I don't want to like deal with him. So I'm walking. He's next to me and he's just asking me 1,000,001 questions. Just like, where are you from? What are you doing here? Where were you? And I'm just like trying to be nice. Again, as I mentioned earlier, I don't know how to say no. So I'm just like, yeah, I'm from Australia. I went out. That's what I've been doing. I'm going home now. And yeah, we keep walking for about a few minutes and we finally get to the exit. And at this point, he was just kind of like still talking to me, and I'm just like, I want to get out of here, but I don't want him to like follow me. And as I mentioned earlier, I had been on my phone, and I don't know how it happened, but he literally suddenly just grabbed my phone out of my hand, and I'm like, what? And he's like, oh, give me your number. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing? And before I could even like object or anything, he's like stumbling about on the phone, trying to like, I guess he goes on Kakao Talk and he's trying to put his own number into my phone. And I'm just like standing there like, what the hell? And I'm kind of like looking around to see if anyone's like noticing this, because not that I'm expecting anyone to help me, but I'm just like, what the hell is happening? And so he finally like inputs his number, and then of course he has to check to make sure it's right. So he sends himself a message through my phone, and he of course gets the message, and I'm like, crap, okay, now he's got my number. And then he hands it back to me and he's like, okay, now you can give me a hug before I leave. And again, I'm just like, excuse me? And before I can even say anything, he like grabs my arm, and it was firm. It wasn't just like a little, like, you know, hand on the shoulder. He like gripped into my arm. He's like, yeah, give me a hug. And I was just like, oh no, sorry, like I can't, like trying to like diffuse the situation. And I'm like, oh no, you know, I'm waiting for my boyfriend, like I'm gonna meet him. And he's like, oh no, like it's okay, like I'm sure your boyfriend won't mind. And he's still holding my arm. And at this point I'm like really uncomfortable, like I don't know what to do. And again, I'm looking around to see if anyone could like assist me, I guess, but no one's gonna assist me. So eventually I was just like, okay. So I kind of like leaned in and gave him like that awkward one arm like pat on the shoulder type of thing. And finally he lets go and he's like, I'll call you later. And I'm just like, what the hell happened? And obviously like I blocked him from my phone, and I was just like, what the hell? Like, men are so creepy here sometimes. Like, not to say all men are creepy, but that was just so creepy. I just couldn't believe it. Like, he was just gripping my arm and so demanding. I was like, who are you? But that was the subway hugger. The last story I wanted to share with you guys was what I would call the porn star wannabe. So this happened a long time ago when I first arrived in Korea, so pre-Seoul days. I lived in Wonju, but a few of my friends and I decided to come to Seoul for the weekend. And of course we ended up going clubbing, we had a great time, and I believe it was like somewhere between like 5 and 6 a.m. we decided to head back to our hostel. So there's 3 of us, we're walking, we're having fun, we're kind of drunk, and suddenly like a guy approaches us. He was pretty young. I remember he was attractive, like that's all I remember. Like he was quite attractive and he seemed very confident in himself, but as soon as he like approached us, one of my friends was like, nope, I'm done, I'm out of here. She like kept walking, but the other friend and I, we were kind of like drunk, as I mentioned, so we're like, oh, we'll engage with this guy. And so he's just like, hi, yeah, how you doing, were you just out? And we're like, yeah, we were just out clubbing and stuff. And he's like, oh, cool. And he's just like, asking the typical questions like, where are you from, like how old are you, what do you do here? And we're just engaging as we're walking back towards our hostel. And finally he's kind of like, oh, I'm an inspiring actor. And we're kind of like, oh, that's pretty cool, that's interesting. And he's like, yeah, I'm trying to like have my debut and stuff. And we were like, okay. And he's like, actually though, I need some help, would you like guys be able to help me? And we were kind of like, what do you mean, like how can we help you? And he's like, well, I just need to get like some videos real quick. And he's like, here's my phone, would you be able to help me film something real quick? It'll take like 30 seconds or something. And my friend and I were like, okay, sure, why not? And so he hands her the phone and she's like, okay, like what type of acting do you want to do? And he's just like, well, actually I'm a porn star. And we were like, wait, what? And we're like, do you even know what that means? Like, are you sure like you know what you're talking about? And he's like, yeah, I just need some shoots for my upcoming porn star like debut. And we were kind of like, wait, what? And before we could even like process what is happening, he stands there and unzips his pants and pulls out his what. We were just like in shock. We were like, what the hell? But my friend, as I mentioned, she was holding the phone. She literally just threw it like right at his feet and she was like, run. And so we're like running and we like kind of look back and he's just like, I don't know, just standing there picking up his phone, but we're like, no, we gotta run. So we run and we finally catch up to our other friend who had walked away, and she was just like, I knew it, you guys, I knew something was off with that guy as soon as he approached us. Like, who approaches someone at like 5 or 6 a.m. just to be like chatty? And we were like, oh my god. But like it was just so like funny because like I said, he like appeared like really normal. Not to say like people that look normal like can't be weirdos or anything, but it's just like he came across as very confident and like very cool, very charming, and like I said, he was pretty attractive. So we were like, oh my god. But yeah, that was the porn star. That's pretty much it for my story time. I actually have like a ton of other stories I would love to share with you guys, but I'm not really sure like how this one went. If you did enjoy hearing my stories, please let me know. And if you do want to hear another story time, let me know again in the comments down below. I'd be happy to film one for you. Obviously not all my stories are going to be as, I guess, fun as this. Like these stories to me, like when they happen, like they're kind of scary and strange, but like looking back I can kind of laugh about it. And I've had some like, I guess, really bad experiences here, which I do want to share, but at the same time I feel like nervous to do so. But let me know if you do want to hear about them, and if you haven't already, please like and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!